One of the hardest things to learn in business is the art of delegation. Let's face it, who can do something better than we can? Who's going to care as much as we do? The truth is, without delegation, we become the biggest obstacles to growth in our own businesses. So you hire someone and you train them, and then boom, they get offered their dream job elsewhere, and now you have to do all their work while looking for a replacement. Well, today on the Land.MBA podcast, Dave and I are interviewing Brian Rapier, who is going to deliver completely free of charge golden nuggets about building and managing a team. If you've wanted to scale your land business but just didn't know how to grow your team, you do not want to miss this podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Land MBA podcast. Today we have on a special guest, Mr. Brian Rapier. Did I pronounce that right, Brian?
It's Rapier. That's all right.
Rapier. I apologize. I should have asked you how to pronounce your name before we started.
That's right. I've been called worse. It's okay.
I like Rapier. It's like, do me right and I'll take care of you. Do me wrong, I'm going to cut you up.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
And of course, we have my fearless sidekick, Howard Zonder, and myself, your co-host, David Van Steenkist. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Hey, where are you at today? I didn't even ask. I know.
I'm in Springfield, Missouri.
All right. Excelente.
Down in the Ozarks.
Very good. I love that part of the country.
Like, people like, you don't want to get lost in the woods because you'll end up in stew pot or something.
Yeah. That's not too far from here. Yeah.
The old Wicked Witch.
No, it's beautiful up there. I spent some time kind of on the Arkansas side, but over on Table Rock Lake, and
yeah,
there
it's about an hour from where I live. Yeah,
so gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful part of the country.
And I think we actually flew into Springfield, Missouri, so it's not.
Yeah.
Cool. So Brian, I know you're a very busy guy. You've got a very responsible job, and you've taken it on this. You've been doing land for a couple of years, but give us a little bit of your backstory. Who you are. What you do, and sort of how you came to land.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. So I've been doing management consulting from a corporate job perspective for close to 15 years now. And I do enjoy it. It's problem solving, right? To kind of wrap it up in a nutshell, it's a lot of problem solving at different levels. It was about a little over 3 years ago now. I heard a podcast with a land investor on there that was, doing some coaching and I'd never heard of buying and selling land before, the way we do it here. And so that kind of turned me on. I did a lot of research and then went through, one of the coaching practices there, and it was helpful to kind of learn the mechanics. But what I realized, probably not even right away, but as I went, was that I had a massive fear of failure. And so it really held me back at the beginning. I didn't want to spend too much of my own money, and I was terrified of making a mistake. And then my day job, I have teams of people. I can always go ask someone, right? Hey, what do you think? Or have you done this before? And when you're starting your own company, and you don't have a lot of connections yet from in that world, it's a little unnerving. And so I had to get over those fears. And it's actually helped me, if I look back over these 3 years, really to become a better decision maker, to take, relatively limited information at some times and have to make the best decision based on the information known, and then quickly pivot if it's the wrong decision, right? But not to be fearful of it. If let's go that direction and keep moving forward. So just continue to grow our land business. At the beginning, we did a lot of wholesale deals, primarily just because it was a way to get capital back into the business very quickly. And honestly, our marketing was not very good, and I struggled to get any term sales or even just retail customers. It was hard. And so we did a lot of wholesale, and really it's been over the last probably year that we haven't done any, I don't think we've done any wholesale in the last year. And we focused really all on, cash and terms buyers from a retail perspective, and are starting to get into a pretty good groove these last 3 or 4 months. And so we're kind of ticking along, and that has to do with our hiring and the team members we have on our team, and me getting out of the way. I'm definitely the biggest bottleneck in my own business. So.
Yeah, we keep one of our other coaches in Land.MBA, a guy named Trevor Hartsock, who is my first friend in the business. We came in together. We started literally on the same day. And he always says that. He's like, if I want to see my business grow, the best thing I can do is get the hell out of the way.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, but it's hard at the same time, right? And but as you start to do it, it becomes a little bit easier because you see the fruit from stepping away, and I think it's kind of that positive flywheel perspective.
Absolutely. So just to clarify, so in the consulting side, is it technology consulting or is it management consulting? What area? General.
It's been both. Yeah, it's been both over my career. Now it's more in the IT space. These last 3 to 5 years, been more IT focused.
Okay, got it.
I joke that I don't do IT. I just lead people that do IT really well. That's.
Well, I was a consultant for several years, and it's such a cool. It's cool. It depends if you got the right personality, and you just get off on problem solving. It's the great thing because you kind of go in there, and it's a new problem, so it just focuses your mind. It's like, oh, a problem. This is exciting. And then you figure out how to solve the problem. And then once you solve it, you drop it back in their lap and walk away.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. It is unnerving because you're, like you said, you're coming in, it's typically a new problem most of the time. Not that it's never been done on earth, but it probably hasn't been done very often, or they wouldn't bring a consulting, firm in to help. And and you get dropped in those all the time. So getting comfortable, being uncomfortable is something that you have to overcome if you want to, stay in that career for very long. And that's helped me in the land business as well, right? Being comfortable not knowing about a new county I'm getting into, or being comfortable not at the beginning, not knowing what it was like to hire a VA and work with them, right? So that's probably helped me along the journey, just knowing, okay, I've done this before, looks different, right? It's in the corporate world, but stepped into a project or a problem that I didn't know much about, and how quickly can I ramp up and take it on as a challenge rather than as a fearful, oh no, what might happen if it goes wrong, right? So kind of, it's a mindset.
Yeah, instead of, I'm sure that because there's a lot of unknowns when you start this business, and luckily there's a great community out there of people to help out and whatnot. But doing the consulting, I've done a little bit myself. It's because many times I'm sure you're faced with questions or problems, and like that you're standing in front of your client and thinking, I have no freaking clue. I don't know how to do this, but I know I can figure it out. I believe I can figure it out. I can find the right people. I can read the right article. I'll figure it out. And that is the mindset. Same thing, starting a new business, no matter what it is. And particularly this land business, new things pop up, new situations pop up all the time. And you're like, well, okay, here's a challenge.
Right.
That's absolutely. So sorry, Brian, you were about to say?
No, I was going to say it's I've heard coaches back in the day, and in sports, and it's a good analogy of just keep your feet moving, right? And I think it's similar as you're starting a new business or starting a new project or whatever. Just keep your feet moving, and the momentum will take you your own past experiences, right? And that confidence that's built up will help propel you forward, right? And don't be too prideful to ask for help, right? That's the other piece too.
Yeah, totally. So to the degree that you're doing technology consulting, do you get involved with agile development or the concepts of agile? And
Yeah, that's yeah. Mhm.
how is that model applied into your land business?
It's so perfectly yeah, aligns in. So I've been a scrum master. I've played that role. Agile coaching, and really for those that may not be familiar with that, it's just think of it's an iterative way to solve problems or to build anything. It could be a piece of technology. It could be a process, right, or system. And rather than having to have it all outlined on paper, where every single requirement or every single spec is detailed, which may take you 6 months to write out that document, and then it's immediately out of date, right? It's parts of it are irrelevant because the market changes, the business changes. I mean, look at this year, right? Like who saw that coming? And so the iterative or agile approach is to have enough that you can get your team going for maybe a couple weeks, right? You know enough then, and as you go, you continue to see more clearly which direction you need to go after that, right? So rather than trying to have everything for the next 18 months defined on paper, you just need enough for the next 2 to 4 weeks, and as you go, you continue to really understand the direction, and you can pivot so much easier. And it's a more lightweight process. And so from the land business, it's very similar, right? As I build out different systems for our company, or we want to try new things, we want to try a new county or try a new marketing platform or whatever. It's not the end all be all. I have to, spend 3 weeks documenting it. It's hey, I'm gonna get a 5-minute Loom video, and I'm gonna send it to one of my team members, and we're gonna try it, and she'll let me know in 3 or 4 days what the response is like, and then we may keep going, or we may pivot, or we may stop. And so that mindset of agile has helped out tremendously, Howard.
I would imagine that it also, in a lot of ways, for me at least, it overcomes my fear of failure, because if you're building a plan for a year,
mm-hmm.
that would assume, as you just rightly said, that what the world's going to look like in a year.
Right.
None of us know that, right? A lot of risk just committing to that plan, and you put all that effort into it, and then you feel obligated to go and execute the plan, right, wrong, or indifferent, because you put so much effort into it.
Yeah.
But what I love about agile is you just build this list of discrete of tasks or
mm-hmm.
goals, and then you're constantly adjusting the priority level of those deliverables based upon what the market is telling you at that moment. And so in a way, it's so freeing, because instead of me having to try to understand what the right answer is, it makes it possible for the market to just tell me what the answer is.
Yep.
And then we just keep zigging and zagging and follow the market and follow the answer. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. Brian, tell us a little bit about how you've got your team structured.
Yeah, so we have an acquisition manager who does all of the intake for us. So as the letters come back in, whether that's through physical mail or email or phone call, right? People wanting to sell their land. She handles all of that, handles the due diligence, and has all that in. And we use LandSpeed, right? So all of that gets captured in LandSpeed, and then she reaches out and says, lets me know, hey, this property is ready for your review. And so I go in, and it's a super quick review. I'm looking at the deed just to make sure there's not anything that she might have missed, which rarely ever happens. Make sure the chain of title is good. And then, I take a quick look at the Google Map image of the property. I don't, long ago, I got away from, that doesn't look like a property I'd want to buy, because yes, I am buying it, but I'm buying it to sell it, right? Like I'm not the end buyer, and I don't need to let that cloud my judgment. So, there's just a few quick things that I go in and I look at each time. It takes me typically 5 minutes, unless there's a challenge with the chain of title. But And then we have a marketing team member. She's leads all of our marketing. So she does our posting to primarily Facebook. We have some other online platforms that we market to, and those two team members work very well together, because as soon as the property is ready, that we've purchased it, immediately that information is sent. We use Slack to our marketing team member, and she starts posting. So I don't need to be in the middle of that conversation, right? It just happens. Right. And then I hired a sales manager back in May, and shockingly, our business has taken off since then. Once I got out of the the driver's seat of doing sales, which I'm not very good at, I kind of knew that going in, and it was proven with data that I'm not very good at sales. So hiring the sales manager has been a brilliant move on my part. I'll take credit for that.
Are you a US-based person?
It is, yeah. All three of those are US-based, actually.
Okay.
They're all US-based, and so from a time zones perspective, it works really well for us there. Our only offshore team member helps build our list together for us, and that's really the main focus there. So it's really those four, and the acquisition manager, marketing manager, sales manager, and then we have another team member that builds our list, and that's me. That's our team right now. So we're pretty lean. It's working well. And one of the things, and Howard, I know you and I talked a week or so ago, is well, how do I build redundancy into my business, right? There's redundancy on the technology side, but there's also redundancy from a people perspective, right? If someone goes on vacation, right, or they choose to go a different direction and work someplace else, or a better option, we grow so big that one person in one of those roles can't handle the amount. They don't want to work that many hours, which is totally fair. So that's kind of one of the next challenges, and I say that in a positive way, that I'm looking at in my business, is how do I build redundancy across the intake, the marketing, and the sales in a scalable way. And once going back to the agile, right? I don't have to have that all solved next week, right? Just kind of incrementally doing that. So and also I think it'll strengthen, because each person in those roles will have another person to bounce ideas off of. Even if they're working in different counties, right? We can try things that way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we're structured, David.
I like it. So that brings another big question to my mind, and probably another big question to a lot of other land investors who are, new in the game, or, feel like, gosh, I can't afford to hire US-based people. I got to start with, Filipino VAs. So what is your, disclose as much as you feel comfortable with.
Sure.
What is your compensation model? Is it a performance-based, bonuses per property, things like that, or a small base plus the kickers?
Yeah, good question. And I've this is another thing I've been a little agile with as well. But for the US based, acquisition manager and marketing right now, both are hourly, just an hourly dollar amount that we'd agreed to with each person, and that's worked very well. I tried some other ways at first for property, and it just, honestly, our business didn't have the volume that they could consistently count on the income coming in, and so it worked better just to do an hourly wage basically with each one. And with our sales, though, it's purely commission. And so there's a flat rate commission for each sale. And then depending on if it's a turn sale or a cash sale, there's another bonus incentive there. On the turn sale, the bonus is based on the down payment. So our sales manager is incentivized to try to get a larger down payment when they close the sale, right? Because they're getting a percentage of that down payment on top of their commission. And then with the cash sale, it's just a percent. It's a smaller percent, but a percent of the overall cash sale. So, they're not incentivized to give, too big of a discount on the cash sale. But also it's, for the sales manager's perspective, she's kind of looking at volume as well, right? Which is what I'm all about in my business, right? Get the land in and move it quickly. Even if we give a little bit of a discount in order to do that, I would do that every day of the week rather than hold it and wait for that perfect price that I think that property's worth, right? Where when somebody's got their checkbook or their credit card out and they're ready to buy, and we shave a little off, we'll do that every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And many times it's a great margin anyway, so you can afford a little bit of discount to move it quickly. And a lot of times I know we should never split the difference, but a lot of times, you can come back at them halfway and sell it almost every time.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's all sorts of levers you can use, right? So, you can adjust the down payment. You can, we don't adjust the doc fee very much because that's where the commission comes from for a sales manager. But maybe we'll extend it 2 or 3 months on the terms to lower that monthly payment to a point that they have in their head as a buyer that this is my price point. We can do that as well. And one other thing I wanted to talk about with the pay, or your question around the U.S. based, right, team members. For my personally, right, having a full-time career that I do enjoy, I realized very quickly I don't have time to be the one making all those decisions. And if I only have VAs or team members that are task oriented, whether they always have to wait for me to come, tell them, here's your next task to do, here's how to answer this question. Then what I'd created was really just another job. And I don't need another job. We got young kids, full-time, a wife and a full-time career. And so I wanted to own a business, right? And to grow it, even if it was growing slowly, that's okay. Just incrementally growing. And so the, delegation has been kind of a big thing I've focused on, right? And there's different levels of delegation. I don't remember where I read this. I've read this in several management books over the years, but kind of the hierarchy of delegating. It kind of starts at task-oriented delegation of here's every single step you need to do in the process. Here's a video, here's a Word document. Now go follow these steps and let me know when you're done, right? And that's kind of the bottom level. And there's certain tasks where that makes sense to start. And then you go all the way to the far end of the spectrum, which is, they come to me and I'll ask, hey, how would you solve this problem, right? Rather than me giving them an answer, I kind of answer their question with a question, right? Because they've been with our team long enough. They've proven that they can make sound decisions. And quite frankly, they're closer to the particular problem or particular challenge than I am, right? They're the ones that have been talking on the phone with the potential buyer or with the person wanting to sell the land or with the county if there's a question on zoning or something like that. And so it's much more of a collaborative discussion with those team members that have kind of proven that, and delegating rather than dictating how they need to do their job. And for me, that's great because I can trust them to go make a lot of the decisions without me needing to see that. And they'll run it by me if it's something that I need to know. But I try to empower them so that I don't have to be in the middle of all those. And
they're probably much happier too.
Yeah, I think so. Right. They can work when they want, where they want. Of course, it's all virtual, and they don't have somebody sitting on their shoulder, questioning, why did you do it this way? Why did you do it that way? Quite frankly, when they've showed me how they've done some things, I'm like, I hadn't thought of that. Right? I hadn't thought of that approach, but I love it. It's way better than that.
Can you give us an example of where, they've kind of come up with something that, completely took you off guard and you're like, oh my God, that's fantastic. I would have never come up with that by myself.
Yeah. So I'll give you one. We had a property several months ago we bought in a golf, or it was on a golf course. Like actually the backyard of the property, or what would have been the backyard, there wasn't a house on it, but it was looking at was on the golf course. And it was in an area we bought several lots, and we got it for the same price as we had bought all these other lots. And they were off the golf course, several streets over, and I was so excited. I was like, oh my goodness. We got this property. It's great. We're going to be able to, get 3 or 4 times what we've been getting for these others because it's location, right? And I was so excited. We had a photographer go out, take the photos, and we had a potential buyer come. And I learned all this through our sales manager. Once again, I wasn't the one talking, right? And so she said, hey, we had a contractor come out. He wants to buy it. to build on, right? It was a house in a subdivision, building's kind of the thing you did there on the golf course. And he said there's this water runoff issue. It looks like the golf course is allowing their pond or their kind of golf course lake to run over that lot into like I don't know what it's called, culvert or whatever in the street. And you would have never known. I mean, you couldn't see that in any photo, right? It's not in a flood zone. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? Right. Like, oh, for like a half day, I was just like Debbie Downer, right? Like, oh no, what's going to happen? And, but I just, I kept my feet moving with other properties, and I was like, oh, we'll just set that one on the back burner. Like, we'll just kind of like, future Brian will deal with that problem. Right. That's what I do sometimes. And so, a sales manager, she came back and the next day or the day after, and she said, hey, why don't we just try to sell it to the golf course? I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I'll give him a call. So she did. She called him, and they knew exactly which lot we were talking about of the hundreds of lots surrounding their golf course. Like, she didn't even have to give them any specific information. They knew. And they said, yeah, we don't normally do that, but we will because we know the situation. And so we had to go through title on that one, which you don't normally do. It took a little longer, but we sold it for cash and tripled our money. And I was like, I don't know that I would have thought of that, right? So that was an area where, allowing them to have, plenty of runway, my team members, to make those decisions has really helped. It's helped me not have to be the one to come up with the great ideas all the time, right?
Well, it's, I love it when, your business grows and your employees start to do a better job than you did at something. And that's like, some people I think get bent out of shape by that, but that's like no bigger compliment. I'm like, you take it. You're awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think for me that what's helped there, Howard, going back to the consulting, right? You come in, you solve a problem for a client or a client organization, and then like, my job is not to stay there long term, right? I know going in, I'm going to hand over a better process, system, piece of technology, whatever it is we're building, to that client organization, and I need to teach them how to do it, and then I need to be gone, right? I need to go on to the next project. And so I think that's helped in the land business, where I don't have any qualms about my team members doing a particular task or role or making a decision better than I would have made myself. So it's exciting. It takes a lot of stress off of me, honestly.
But let's dig into it just a little bit, because in order for that to work, you have to hire a person with a certain level of skill.
Right.
And that level of skill that you can ultimately trust to go make judgment calls on your business, that is your money. To find people that are capable of doing that, they're more expensive. And when people come into this business, the first, and I think you used the word yourself, when you first get into the business, you're learning the mechanics, the operations of the business. And so you have this operational mindset. And within that operational mindset, one of the key areas that people try to control are costs, because they may not be bringing a tremendous amount of capital in, and it is their money, and they want to use whatever they have towards buying properties. And so they said, oh, I'm going to hire that $3 VA in the Philippines, and it's going to be very task oriented. It's going to be the bottom of that hierarchy of delegation that you talked about. But in order to get where you are, you've got to pay a lot more for your VA. You're asking a lot more of them, both in their knowledge, their skills, their history, everything else. So my question to you is, did you say in your mind that you're going to build the business to the point where it can support that level of cost for those VAs? Or did you say, I'm going to bring in those VAs as an investment because I believe that it's going to deliver the results I need to justify that expense.
And before we get into that answer,
yeah,
we just need to hear a few words from our sponsor, LandSpeed. Hey, folks, people often talk about automating and outsourcing your land flipping business. But what does that really mean? Generic solutions leave it to you to figure out how to set up and maintain the automations. I've been running my land business on LandSpeed for over 3 years because it's a total solution and allows me to focus on being a great land investor. LandSpeed was built specifically for land investing by a land investor. And with many of the most successful people in the business using it for years, it's evolved into one of the most feature-rich solutions on the market. Some of the key benefits I get are being able to create and manage mail campaigns and neighbor letters. I'm able to automate tasks amongst my team, create contracts and deeds, and email, text, or mail them within a few clicks. I can automatically capture sales leads from any lead source, including Facebook Messenger. Then it automatically pushes those leads into my sales funnel so that I can manually follow up, but they also go into my automated drip campaign. And since LandSpeed's a total cloud-based solution, I can run my business from anywhere in the world with a phone, laptop, or tablet. So if you want to turn your hobby into a professional, scalable business, just go to landspeedtech.com/Dave to receive a $150 discount today.
Yeah, so it's a good question, Howard. And I wrestled with this a lot, right? Do I wait until the business is a certain size and then hire that kind of level of VA, or do I bring him in early? And I think that's one of the reasons, or I know that's one of the reasons we did wholesaling up front, was to kind of build up some capital. And I realized too that thankfully, with having a full-time career, I didn't need the money from the business, right, to support my bills. And so I've allowed the business to fund hiring the higher end VAs, if you will, that can make those decisions, because I look at cost in all areas of life, not just dollars, right? There's time, there's energy, right? And so I knew that I didn't have the time, and I knew I didn't have the energy, 2 young kids that I want to spend time with my wife and my family. But I could, forego, the profit side of the business for me, or the take home for me, right? And put it into hiring people that can frankly support the business. And, I looked at it at one point with the marketing, because we were paying more for marketing than we'd ever paid before. And I was getting really nervous about it. And then I looked, I got the numbers up, and some people's businesses are way larger than this, but back in May, our leads added to our buyers list went from around 40 to 50 a month to over 200 a month, and they've stayed right around that clip. And it's because I got out of the way, right? I brought the person in who was putting out the ads consistently, every day, and or every weekday, I should say, right? And set a goal like, hey, 200's our goal. And at the beginning, it seemed crazy, right? Like we were doing 50, 200 is like astronomically higher, right? And now, that's pretty much a clip we're hitting every month. And so I realized within a month or two that, hey, you know what, it's worth it, because the flywheel, you've got to start with something, right? And you've got to put some into it, some money into it, some of the VAs who can make those decisions. And I don't have to check in every day. Hey, did you actually post those ads, right? I know they're getting posted because I see the emails come through of this, the leads that are getting added. I go out to MailerLite and I can see the leads in our mailing list that are increasing. And so, and then the same thing with the sales side, right? And when we decided to pay, commission, it was a pretty big chunk of cash that we normally took in right after I made the sale. But I looked at, rather than selling, 1 or 2 a month, maybe, when I was doing it, right now last month we just brought the sales manager on in May. And so, it took a couple of months to kind of get work through. We were doing about 2 a month, and then last month we did, August we did 6, and last month we sold 10. And so I'm seeing the increase, and they're not high dollar amount properties. We're buying these for $500 to $800 cash and selling them around $4,000 on terms, or $3,000 cash. And we're about 2/3 terms, 1/3 cash right now, just the way the market is. I know you guys talked about this on a previous podcast. Like I don't dictate that percentage, right? I mean, that's what the market is giving us. And so we'll take it. But those cash sales do help support. In about a month or two ago, we hit the mark in our business where our recurring terms, our note payments, were covering all the operational expenses for the business, including mailers, including, the team, payroll, all of that. And so that was really an exciting, I could take like a little bit of okay, right? We don't have to have this certain cash sale to make payroll type of thing, right? That's a nerve-wracking, or have to go to my wife and say, hey, we're going to need to pull a little more out of the personal checking, right? To make it. But I promise in a couple months, it'll be great. It'll be better. And so we finally hit that mark. And now I think it's, now we're seeing an acceleration. And my latest problem is I need more land, right? Because our inventory wasn't ready to sell 10 a month consistently, right? And so that's our next challenge.
I just hit that in my business where, part of it, although, has been also consistency of me, marketing to sellers as well. But, I want to just comment on your point about hitting that mark where your cash flow is paying your expenses. There are a lot of people that I hear, in this business talk about, and when we just did a podcast on cash versus terms and strategy and whatnot, and I am a big believer in doing both. There are a lot of people who don't want to deal with managing the terms, and it's really so easy with the tools we have now. And, to know that, I don't have to stress about a cash sale this month because I know the basis is covered because the cash flow is coming in,
Yep.
And now the next goal is let's double it so that if we have so we can pay ourselves, but also to protect ourselves. If we have double the cash flow we need to run the business and the economy goes, takes a big tailspin and impacts our business, if, half our notes default, we're still okay.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I love having, I know the business is growing and we're doing the right things typically if I have new problems to solve, right? I like new problems, but most of the time. And that, doubling the terms notes, right? That's a new problem or a new challenge, right? That's much, I'll take that over trying to get to where I was today, right? I wouldn't want to climb that hill again to get to where I am now. But now that I'm here, I'm really, really excited to move forward and increase the terms notes. We never turn away cash sale though, right? I'll take the cash and build the capital, because part of that lets us build, a little bit of a like reserve war chest, if you will, right? For the rainy day, like you said, if something happens in the business, we can do that. Or if there's a bigger property that comes along, we can always reach out to a partner, but maybe, I can fund that myself and do that.
Sure. What's the typical price point that you're playing in? I'm sorry, Howard.
I missed it, Howard. What was the question?
Well, I think David was going to ask about price points.
Yeah. What's the typical price point that you're playing, and like, what's your sweet spot as far as buying and then reselling?
Yeah, we've most of the properties we've done over the last year, we're purchasing the $500 to $800 range. And then we're selling cash around $3,000, terms around $4,000 to $4,500 on terms, and that's a 3-year note. Most of those. So the interest per year it's pretty good, right? And that's what I'm looking at right now. There's some other properties we did that were a little higher, $1,500 range to purchase. And we were selling those for, I think, around 7 or 8. We only did 3 or 4 of those. in an area, but or cash. Those were selling, $5 or $6 grand cash. And so I'd like to move up. I know Dave Dennison was on a few podcasts ago, and I liked his approach of having, different, you have your, $3,000 to $4,000 kind of sales price point, and then you've got, maybe you double that on, 7 to 8, and then maybe you have some other that are in the 15 range. And so you're not single threaded in this one area, because the nice part about the price point we're working at now is we recoup our capital very quickly, typically, depending on the down payment, right? And so that's really nice. We can continue to spin, and it's all about volume, right? Trying to sell as many of those as quickly as we can. As you get to but the dollar amounts aren't huge, right? And so that's kind of the downside of it, if you will. If there is a downside to, making over 130% a year on your money. But on the bigger dollar amounts, right? Those are kind of more substantial, and they can help propel your business faster. And so that's what we're looking at. How do we continue with what we're doing now, because it's working, right? And we kind of have this niche carved out. And then let's layer in another kind of price point where we can niche that out as well. That's at a higher price point, and have both of those running. And then we'll look to do a third price point at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
To grow your inventory, are you is your model right now where you're operating in lots of different counties and lots of different states, or are you a little bit more focused? How are you approaching that?
Yeah, we are laser focused right now. We were in a couple different states, and we started seeing more and more sales where we are now in Texas and in this particular area. And so I don't know, about probably 8 or 9 months ago, I said, you know what, let's just focus there, right? It's working. let's get really good at that area. And that's what we've done. And so we've just honed into one area. It's honestly helped, back to the team member discussion. It's less for them to have to learn at once, right? When it's just one county, kind of just one particular area in the county, and there are thousands. There's more property there than I'll probably ever have money to buy, right? There's just thousands and thousands of lots. And so going in and doing that and rinse and repeat has allowed our team to really kind of build the muscle, the memory muscle that we need to it's never on autopilot, right? There's always decisions that have to be made, but to be able to have a repeatable process. At some point, we did work in one other county for a little bit. It was very close to that county. So our buyers list was the same, basically, right? It wasn't so far away that, and that's one of the things that, I'll probably stay in the same general area for a while, just because we're seeing it working. And at some point, potentially branch out, especially if the branching out is a completely different price point. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that concept of, by creating focus, you lower the learning curve, and you speed up the learning curve, but you also, create more depth of knowledge and expertise amongst.
Right.
And a repeatable process.
Yeah.
Which is really great. I lost my train of thought, Dave. You're up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, the repeatable process, resonated with me, because I've been in, 2 or 3 counties that I've been laser focused on over the years, but, recently those counties have been a little more competitive. So I've been branching out, and then also part of branching out, and you start to change your price points as well. And get into different areas. And so, we're going actually through some learning curve in some new areas that we're doing right now. I found that in some parts, my pricing was just way off, too high in some places, and too low in other places. And even places where it was too high, people told me to pound sand, but we still got some deals. But it's a little more work for my staff and I to evaluate the properties. But that's part of the process when you go into a new area, and you have to keep testing. You have to have that. Okay, here's our bread and butter, but we got to test start testing some areas as well and start to go up in price point, and, I am a personal fan of also having the multi-tiered approach on price points. So you've always got something you're selling, and it's really nice to have that every now and then, have that nice cash chunk. One of my students just closed on his first deal, and I was a little bit concerned because he's he was in a financial situation where he was putting everything on credit cards, put his coaching on credit cards, and bought his first property with the credit card. But he paid under $5,000 for his first property and sold it for $28,500 to the neighbor, and boom, paid his coaching off and put, $14,000 in his pocket, something like that. So, it's nice to get those chunks from time to time too. So, but you can't necessarily live on those. The bread and butter is the little stuff that's turning, the volume. You keep your systems going, and then, okay, let's grab one here and grab one here and supplement it. And then you've always got some price point to sell to.
But I think that the cool idea here is, you're always trying to grow, right? That's the key thing. Trying to grow the business, grow the revenue, grow the profit. And I think back to my corporate days, and looking at kind of corporate strategy. And we always talked about, there's, you can grow vertically or you can grow horizontally, or you can combination of the two, and as that relates to the land business, growing horizontally would be, okay, let's go into another county, but kind of with the same strategy, right? We're going to go after those low cost properties. We know how to do that. And then the vertical would be, let's stay in the same geography, but let's go after different markets segments within that county. So higher price point. And the interesting thing about that is that as soon as you make that decision, you start targeting it, you have to learn quite a bit, because your offer values are going to be different. Is it 20 cents on the dollar, or maybe now it's 40 cents on the dollar. So you got to pricing. The kind of people who are selling those properties are different than the kind of people who are selling the cheap stuff. So it's a different kind of a conversation, different kind of a value proposition. If you want to sound like them and make them feel comfortable, you have to speak differently. And then on the sales side, your buyers are different. And then maybe when you get to that point, instead of closing it, self-closing it, now you have to go in and you got to close through title companies.
Right.
And so, I think you got to be really thoughtful of how you do this, regardless of whether you expand horizontally or vertically, to make sure that you and the team are, set up for success, and it's a deliberative and thoughtful process.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I look at, I kind of like the analogy of, learning to drive a car, right? Most of us who've driven for years, you don't have to think when you get in the car of, where do I put the key in the ignition, or maybe it's keyless ignition, right? But like, which pedal do I push? All the things with driving that when you're, a teenager and you're learning, it's all new, and it's all, you're a little unsure of how these things work. And then as you figure it out, now you get in the car and you just go to wherever your destination is. And so I look at our team where we've been able to be laser focused in what's one area. They literally know the people at the county by name to call and ask if there's a question, right? They know, like, okay, if the deed's done this way, this is what we need next, right? Here's the paperwork you need. Let's go. On the sales side, right? They understand the zoning for these particular subdivisions very well. We actually work in quite a few subdivisions that have HOAs and POAs, which I was adamantly against for the first 2 years of the business. And it's worked out well for us so far, but we're on a first name basis with the presidents or treasurer. I'm not, our team is, and our acquisition manager is, and she can pick up that phone and call. So I kind of look at, she doesn't have to, she's done the hard work. We've done the hard work to figure out who those people are, what's the right thing to do. And now we just go in kind of those repeatable processes. If we were to step into another county, right, we'd have to learn on those again and kind of be like that teenager back learning how to drive the car over again, which it's not a bad thing, right? But you need to know that as you go into it and not expect the same, speed that you have in the county that you're familiar with. And so I think as a kind of that CEO mindset, I think one of the biggest decisions I have to make is when's the right timing for that, right? And also preparing my team to I'm not going to have the same expectations of them if we go to a new county as I will in the existing county, right? I don't want them to beat themselves up because it's a little clunkier trying to close a deal, or the sales are coming a little slower because we don't have that part of the buyers list built up yet. And so kind of equipping them as we go of, hey, here's where we are. The expectations are different in a new county. And that's kind of some of the things I've been thinking about as we look to expand back to that, like horizontal versus vertical.
Right. The tagline for Land.MBA is think big, start small, and scale fast.
Yeah.
And what I see across the broad swath of the industry, at least of land investors, is that people are really good at thinking big. They're really good at starting small. But where the struggle happens is scaling fast. And that transition point between an operational mindset and the CEO mindset. And you clearly, if you haven't already gotten to the CEO mindset, you clearly have one foot in the camp already. I mean, you know what you're doing and it's deliberative and you're getting over there. So in that transition from operational mindset into CEO mindset, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced, either in yourself or in your team or in your business, to make that transition?
Good question.
Yeah, I think it was fear of running out of money, right? Because I was paying our team members, at some points more than we were bringing in a week or in a certain month, right? And so fear of that running out. And then at the beginning, it was more fear of making the wrong decision, right? And what I had to quickly realize was a wrong decision is not the worst thing. Indecision typically is the worst thing, right? And so to be a leader and to be indecisive, you're kind of not a leader anymore, right? So you need to be, now you don't have to be a dictator, right? But you need to be able to make a decision, and then be humble enough to, with data, to say, you know what, we might have not made the best, or I might have not made the best decision. I did with the information we had, but now we have new information and we're going to pivot, right? And come back to the team and do that, not put it on them, not blame them. Hey, why is this not working, right? Say, you know what, we tried this. It didn't work as well. We're going to go this other direction. And I think as your team members start to see you as a leader that way, they feel more confident to take, small risk, right? Maybe like lowercase r risk with what they're doing, right? Try some things out. They're not fearful that you're going to come in and, berate them because something didn't work out the right way, right? Because I always want to be a testing organization, right? Where we're always testing some new things as we go. So I think that mindset has helped me to move. And then a story, I don't think it was on your podcast. I think it was another one I heard a couple months back, was, two guys fishing on the river, and they see this kid floating down in the water, and they swim in and they pull him out and save him. And they look up and there's another kid floating down the river, and they jump in and save him and pull him out. And third kid floating down the river, and the one guy jumps in and he sees his buddy walking up the bank, and he says, "What are you doing? Are you not going to save this kid?" He said, "No, I'm going to go beat this guy up that's throwing kids in upstream." And it's all about, making sure, like, yeah, there's the problem you see right in front of you, but looking upstream to see what might be the root cause of that problem, right? Is it the guy throwing kids in the river, or is it is it something else, right? And for me with the marketing, I wasn't consistent in getting the leads out, or the marketing out to get the leads, and therefore when I hired a marketing manager and she was doing it every week, our leads, went from 50 a week to 200, or 50 a month to 200 a month. Right. And so, and they're continuing to trickle up now. And so I think looking at making sure I'm trying to solve the right problems as a CEO or the leader is a big challenge too, right? To not just solve what's right in front of me, but address that, right? Because it might need to be addressed, but then really kind of find, root cause, right? What's the root cause behind this?
What you just said is so absolutely fantastic. And what went through my head as you said it is that one of the keys to success in business is consistency. And when we start out in the business and we have that operational mindset, first of all, we've got lives. We may have day jobs, we've got families. So what percentage of, to use your words, time and energy do we really have to dedicate to this business? So now we've got some smaller subset of our available time and energy. But because we're thinking operationally and because we are still only hiring very task-oriented kinds of VAs, perhaps, we're still really involved in doing every aspect of the business, from strategy to list building to acquisitions and marketing and sales. And so we're taking this little piece of time and energy that we've got, and then we're chunking it up even further, which really inhibits our ability to do anything overly well as consistently. And consistency is the key. But the moment we hire somebody and say, this is your job, I'm going to cut out just the marketing, or I'm going to cut out just the sales, and here are your objectives and your targets, and they're coming at it and saying, this is my responsibility, all generates a level of consistency that can deliver the kind of results you're talking about.
Yeah, so true. I mean, with young kids, I get maybe a half hour in the morning and maybe an hour in the evening, not even every evening, where I can truly be focused, dedicated to thinking. And if I'm, doing 20 different tasks because I have to get done, I haven't really moved the needle in the business, right? I mean, I got a few things done, but the needle didn't move. But if I can take that 30 minutes or 45 minutes and, decide, okay, here's the next big process, or not even big, but here's the next process I need to build for the business, or the next system we need to work on, or, those decisions, or here's the 3 decisions that I need to make this week to move the business forward. That's a better use of my time as a leader, the CEO, than the task-oriented work, right? That and I love how you said that when you carve out time you carve out a particular objective for the people on your team, then they can get excited about that, right? They know, like, this is what I need to do, and I go in and congratulate them, like, hey, you hit it, right? Good job, like, this is awesome. And so you really kind of build that morale up, rather than they're not really sure what they're supposed to do, but they're checking in with you and asking you, and you're like, oh, I'm not sure, let me get back to you. Like, who wants to work in that environment, right? Like, I want to know what you want me to do, and I want to know, to the quality you want it done, and then let me go do it, right?
Yeah.
It's a very military thing. I'm going to tell you what needs to be done, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. That you go out, right? Yeah. As a consultant, I'm guessing that you read lots of books, lots of business books, management books. Have you ever read the book Drive by Daniel Pink?
I'm trying to look if I have it up here. I love Daniel Pink. I don't know that I've read that one. I'm not sure.
It's probably, he's written some really great books. That's one of my favorites that he's written. And it was my favorite when I was in the corporate world, because I think corporations are by definition the dumbest things in the, if a corporation is a legal embodiment of a person, they're really dumb people. Every time you get into a corporation, they give you MBOs, right? Management objectives. And it's like, here are and so you, like, starting maybe September, October, you're developing your list of objectives for the coming year. Just like talking about with the agile discussion, like, anybody knows what the world's going to look like in a year, right?
Right.
Start at the top, and they cascade them down with this ridiculous belief that somehow all of those objectives are going to lead to a common set of goals, but it never works that way, right?
As long as you put them on paper.
Yeah, that's right. And then so you put all this time and effort in, and you figure out what your goals are, and then the work starts, and you do what's actually necessary for the business, until about the following September, when you realize those objectives, you're not getting your bonus. All you do is work on objectives, even though they have absolutely no benefit to the business because everything's moved on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I used to have these sales objectives in one of the industries I was in, and doing outside sales, selling equipment and supplies. And we'd have this objective sheet, this goal setting sheet, and we're going to do X amount of dollars in this sector, in this industry, et cetera, et cetera. You don't know, and guess what? As a salesperson, you're going to, where do I have the lead? Where's the lowest hanging fruit? And where's my map to money? I don't care what sector it's in.
Coin operated.
Boss, did I hit my number? I hit my number. Well, you didn't hit your number over in this sector. Well, I hit the total sales. What do you care?
Totally. Well, so Daniel Pink in this book Drive, he uses this app called AMP. And he basically said, at least in the knowledge economy, if you want people to get motivated and work hard and deliver what's needed in the business versus some fictitious, what's the word?
Objective.
Objective. Thank you. It was a tough word that you created a year ago. He said AMP. So the first thing that knowledge workers want is they want autonomy. They want to be able to say, I own this, I'm going to deliver it, and I'm going to get the credit for it. The second thing they want is mastery. They want to be able to be subject matter experts in their domain. Now, that may be because they're bringing it or because you're providing them with your knowledge or you're giving them other educational opportunities to grow, but they want to be masters in their domain. And then the last thing they want is purpose. They want to know that what they're doing matters in a way that matters to them. And if you can get those three things into the job, then every single day they will deliver on business objectives far and above any kind of management by objectives. And that's really what you were talking about. And you were saying all of that, but I wanted to highlight that, there's this little framework from Daniel.
Yeah. As a consultant, I love frameworks, right? Most of the time. So I love that. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Is it just me, or is it getting harder and harder to count on a job for our financial security? Who would have ever believed that we would go from the lowest unemployment in 50 years to 40 million people unemployed? Whether you have a great job and want to create a second income, or you're recently unemployed, you need to check out land.mba, your one-stop shop for land investors. Investing in vacant land is a proven business model that can help you build a reliable and scalable second income. Imagine a business where you love what you do. There's no limit on how much money you can make. You can operate your business from anywhere in the world with an internet connection. And best of all, you can never be fired or downsized. If this sounds good to you, Land.MBA provides everything you need to get your business up and running and delivering income quickly. You get education, an end-to-end video course and optional coaching to help you get started faster and turn your energy into income. You get tools so you can automate and outsource the busy work and stay super organized. You get access to a thriving community of like-minded investors, which is a powerful way to share best practices and develop potential partnerships for growing your business. And finally, you get access to deal financing, so you never have to pass on a great investment opportunity due to limited funds. Our team has over a decade of real estate investing experience and has the knowledge and experience you need to help navigate any investing scenario. And with Land.MBA, we hold nothing back. Because there are no upsells, you get access to all of our combined knowledge right out of the gate. So don't wait to provide your family with financial freedom. Sign up today for Land.MBA's Soup to Nuts Land Investing video course. Just go to courses.land.mba and use coupon code FREEDOM to get 25% off. That's courses.land.mba and coupon code FREEDOM. And let us help you say goodbye to your job and hello to financial freedom.
So we're getting towards the end of our time, Brian, but So where are you going from here? I mean, I know as a business person, you've got your next objectives, your next targets, or your big dream that you're simply on the path towards. Where's the future going to be for you and your business?
It's a good question. I need to, this year's been challenging for everyone, right? And so putting our fourth quarter goals together, we were about a month behind our terms note amount I wanted to be. We hit it about a month late, but the number was so big at the beginning, I didn't. It was kind of a lofty number, right? And so to actually hit it a month late was kind of a win. So I think our next goal is to kind of what David said earlier, right? How do we double our note payments, right? And can we do that in the next 6 months to double that? And what does it need to take to do that? And so I'm a big fan of working backwards, right? So I know that's the goal. What do I need to do? How many letters do I need to mail, right? What price points do I need to be selling at? And how many leads do we need to get to do all that? So that's kind of working that backwards. And now that we have about 3 or 4 months with these new team members that have proven the consistency with the leads and the sales continue to uptick, I think that's where we're going, just to increase the note payments. That'd be really exciting. So I need to get a little more focused on the goal setting, honestly. That's an area where I struggle with, because I write them down and then like you said, they don't like, sometimes the world changes, right? And so better to just be iterative. What I've actually started doing is using you're probably familiar with Jira. You could use it with sticky notes on your wall. It doesn't matter, but and having it from what are the next systems and processes I want to build in the business. That's really all that's in there for me as the leader. And so that's some of our goals to build. We don't have a good way right now for buyers from our land to come back and give us I forgot what that's to tell us. Thank you. Testimonials. I couldn't think of the word. It's like objective. It's a hard word. To give us testimonials, right? So to automate that process is one of the next things I'm working through. That after they purchase, they'll get an email. They can fill out a survey, and then if they choose to, they can write a testimonial. So that's one of the next things I'm working on. The thing I just finished 3 weeks ago was getting our deal of the week. Having our marketing manager do that instead of me. Shockingly, we've sold 3 properties, 1 each week since she's sent it out, because I was sending it out about every 2 months, very inconsistently. And so, we're already seeing a return on my time investment from, shooting the Loom videos of myself doing it and sending it over to her. So that's really where I'm kind of focused now more, is what are the processes and what are the systems I need to be building so that my team can continue to do their job, better and easier and faster, right? As we grow.
I love it. Good job. Sounds like you're on the right road, Brian.
Hey, Thank you.
Man, thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate it. And look forward to talking with you in the future. And awesome. So Howard, any last thoughts as we shut it down here?
Well, only this, that, having you on the podcast has been a real breath of fresh air. And it reminds me actually quite a bit of the Dave Denniston podcast, as well as you really are, what you've described to us today is the embodiment of what Land.MBA is all about. The key thing, which is being able to make that migration from the operational mindset to the CEO mindset. We've actually talked about 3 mindsets today, and mindsets are so important. So we've talked about the entrepreneurial mindset, and Dave, the key thing that you mentioned in that entrepreneurial mindset was, I don't need to know how to do it. I just have to have absolute confidence that I can solve whatever problem is thrown at me, and I will. That's what that's how an entrepreneur thinks. That's their mindset. The operational mindset is, I am going to have absolute mastery over the mechanics and operations of my business. And then when you make the transition to the CEO mindset, it's all about, okay, how do I bring in the right talent and get them working together in a way that they're creating value for my business independent of my time and energy. And now I've got to solve a whole different kind of set of problems, like, the goal setting and, and high level planning and improving the operations methodology so that they can become even more productive and efficient. And I think everything that you've described so far today, Brian, has really, it's covered all three of those mindsets, but very much this transition from operational to CEO. It's just been fantastic. So thank you so much for that. Wish you the absolute best in your business, and look forward to keep working with you through Landspeed.
Yeah, well, thank you both. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, had a bit of fun, and walked away with some actionable insights that you can apply to your business. Dave and I have got some great content and interviews planned, so don't forget to rate and review, and of course subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If we mention any interesting links or tools, you'll find them in the show notes. To learn more about Land.MBA, visit our website at, wait for it, Land.MBA. See you next time on the Land.MBA podcast.